Buonasera a tutti e benvenuti a questo mio primo appuntamento registrato per il canale Free Hebrew Channel. This is an appointment for the Free Hebrew Channel television. L'appuntamento di questa sera è dedicato in occasione dell'anniversario della Operazione Entebbe, Mitzvah Jonathan, che ebbe luogo a Entebbe in Uganda la notte tra il 3 e il 4 luglio 1976. Il blitz israeliano che portò alla liberazione di 102 dei 106 tra ebrei israeliani e altri ostaggi. Voglio ricordare qui anche Michel Bacot, il comandante del volo Air France 139, che aveva scelto volontariamente di rimanere con gli ostaggi del volo anche dopo quella tremenda selezione nella quale i passeggeri erano stati distinti tra ebrei e non ebrei e gli ebrei erano stati trattenuti appunto in ostaggio nell'aeroporto di Entebbe in Uganda. Il blitz israeliano portò non solo alla liberazione delle vittime, ma 3 furono gli ostaggi che morirono durante il blitz. I loro nomi sono Pasco Cohen, di 52 anni, Ida Borokowitz, di 56 anni, e il 19enne Jean-Jacques Mimouni, al quale è dedicato il film Entebbe del regista Eyal Boers, che abbiamo l'onore di avere qui ospite questa sera. Welcome Eyal, il quale ci mostrerà adesso una breve spezzone del suo film e al quale porrò poi alcune domande. Please, Eyal, you can start with a brief piece of your movie, Live or Die in Entebbe, and thank you in particular also to Jonathan Khayat, the nephew of Jean-Jacques Mimouni, that he participated also him in our appointment this night. Thank you at all, and we can start. Please, Eyal.
So I just want to say a few words. First of all, thank you very much to Alessandro for hosting this meeting, and I hope that others will join, and I will admit them because I've been made host. And as Alessandro said, if for some reason this session finishes, you can restart again with the same link. And well, it's especially important for me that for the first time I talk about this film with some Italian Sardinian presence. It's never been screened in Italy, and it really feels great to be translated into Italian. It gives me an amazing feeling. So we're gonna watch the first 10 minutes of the film, Live or Die in Entebbe. It's not recommended to watch a whole film on Zoom because it is a slow screening on Zoom. That is why we chose to screen you only the first 10 minutes. But the first 10 minutes not only give you a short preview of the whole story of the whole crisis, but they also give you a bit of the feeling what the film is about. And then we will do some Q&A, me and Alessandro, right? Here, there's another person wanting to go in. Now, be patient if it's a bit slow, the video. This is how it is on Zoom, but I'm really sharing with you the best quality I can. So here we go, the first 10 minutes of Live or Die in Entebbe, the documentary I directed in 2012, and here we go. Alessandro, you please go like this if everything is okay.
On June 27, 1976, Air France Flight 139 took off from Tel Aviv en route for Paris. Shortly after a layover in Athens, the plane was hijacked by 2 Germans and 2 Palestinians. After the hijackers diverted the flight to Benghazi, Libya for refueling, the plane landed in Entebbe, a small town in Uganda located north of Lake Victoria. Idi Amin Dada, the local dictator, gave the hijackers a warm welcome. They demanded the liberation of dozens of Palestinians held in jails in France, West Germany, Switzerland, Kenya, and Israel. They threatened that if these demands were not met, they would begin to kill hostages on July 1st. On June 29, the hijackers liberated an initial group of 47 passengers. The Air France crew, invited to join them, rejected the offer and stayed until the end. In Israel, the plans for a rescue mission were set in motion, while the French government maintained contact with the hijackers via Idi Amin Dada. During the week, a second group of 101 passengers was liberated. The only hostages left now were Israeli nationals and the Air France crew, a total of 105 individuals. On the afternoon of July 3rd, 4 large Hercules planes took off from a secret base in Israel and headed towards Africa. At 11 p.m., they landed on the Entebbe runway. No one was expecting them. The commandos stormed the premises and freed the hostages. Colonel Yonatan Netanyahu, the leader of the Israeli commando unit, and 3 hostages were killed. At 11:50 p.m., in less than an hour, the first plane carrying hostages took off for Israel. The welcome that awaited them in Israel was extraordinary. This spectacular operation, hailed as one of the most brilliant in the military history, put a stop to plane hijacking as a means for Palestinian groups to impose their demands on Israel. But behind the light lies a shadow. This operation also ended the life of my 20-year-old uncle, Jean-Jacques Mimouni. What happened during those 7 days at Entebbe would change my family's life forever. I was born in Paris 2 months before Jean-Jacques died. My grandfather used to call me Jean-Jacques most of the time by mistake. Jean-Jacques, come here. Jean-Jacques, don't go there. Jean-Jacques, come eat. Jean-Jacques here. Jean-Jacques there. Operation Entebbe was renamed Operation Yonatan in memory of Commander Yonatan Netanyahu, who was killed in action during the raid. Yonatan Netanyahu, the older brother of current Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, is considered Operation Entebbe's biggest hero. Many Israeli children born after July 1976 were named Yonatan after him. I was born 2 months before Operation Entebbe. I guess that's what you call coincidence.
זה נראה כמו כל קבר, זה פשוט נראה כמו כל קבר. אתה שומע כל כך הרבה עליו, שאתה מצפה לראות כזה, לא יודע, שיהיה קצת יותר קל למצוא אותו. אני מניח שאנשים שבאים לפה לראות את הקבר של הרצל ואולי של רבין, אז גם באים לפה, כמו שאנשים שהולכים לפריז, אז הולכים לקבר של ג'ים מוריסון. אבל אם תשאל, רוב האנשים ברחוב, מי נהרג במבצע אנטבה? אז אני יכול להגיד בוודאות ש70% מהאנשים יגידו לך יוני נתניהו ודור הבלוך אולי. אבל ז'אן-ז'אק מימוני, או פסקו כהן, או אידה בורוביץ', אני זוכר את ה-30 שנה לאנטבה, זה היה כזה מסיבה ענקית בבן גוריון, אתה יודע, פשוט סגרו חלק מהרחבה האווירית והביאו את המטוסי הרקולס ואת הטייס מאייר פרנס וכל בני הערובה. אני יודע שהזמינו את סבא שלי ואת סבתא שלי, אבל הם לא הלכו. אז אני אומר, תראה איזה פרדוקס. כאילו, כל המדינה חוגגת. כי תשמע, אנטבה זה מבצע יוצא מן הכלל. זה לא... למרות שדוד שלי נהרג שם, אני יכול להגיד לך שזה, אם תחשוב על זה, זה נס. להציל 100 אנשים ככה באפריקה, זה נס. זה ממש... אבל אני רואה בטלוויזיה בצד אחד את הנסיבה שם על המסלול בבן גוריון, ומצד שני אני יודע 15 קילומטר משם יושבים 2 אנשים זקנים, ובוכים 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 וסובלים. אני חושב שצריך לדבר על האנשים האלה. אני מצטער שלא יצא לי להכיר אותו, אבל זה לא קרה, זה... זה לא קרה. אני רוצה לעשות את המסע הזאת בשביל סבא שלי, כי נכון או לא נכון, וזה אני מקווה לגלות בהמשך, הוא תמיד טען שהוא לא בדיוק ידע מה קרה שם. הנה. ז'אן-ז'אק יצחק מימוני. זה הדוד שלי.
My family rarely mentioned Jean-Jacques and Entebbe in my presence. For nearly 35 years, they have never really coped with Jean-Jacques' death and understood the impact it had on the whole family. 35 years after Operation Entebbe and 1 year after my grandfather Robert passed away, it is time to open the wound and perhaps to try to heal it. My Aunt Martine, one of Jean-Jacques' older sisters, agreed to join me to visit her aunt, uncle, and cousins in Moshav Ramot Meir, a place Jean-Jacques loved to visit.
Salut! Comment ça va?
Ça va?
Ça va? Ben tant mieux, c'est toujours ça. Salut ma grande.
Ça va?
Je t'ai foutu du rouge.
Tu dis rouge?
Salut toi, Laura.
Ça fait longtemps que j'ai pas vu Jonathan.
Ça va?
Ça va.
Ça va bien.
איפה יש לכם את התמונה הזו?
איזה ילד יפה.
איזה יפה. איזה יופי.
מישלי.
היה לו את הכלב שלו.
נכון.
זה הכלב שלו, שאבא שלי לא רצה בכלל להחזיק כלב. ואני לא יודעת איך הוא הצליח לסובב אותו.
זאת תחבולה מאוד מתוחכמת בין ז'אן-ז'אק לאמא שלך.
כן.
לגמרי.
טוב, כן, כי כל מה שהוא רצה, אז היא נתנה לו. תראה איזה גוף היה לו.
היה לו גוף מדהים.
כן. הבנות רצו אחריו.
היו דלוקות ואני הייתי מה זה מקנה, כאילו מה תמיד נדלקות על הבן דוד שלי? החוצה. היו כמה בנות
הוא היה אוהב להישאר פה, לבוא להנה.
כל פעם שהוא היה בא לפה, אני רוצה קפה וחתיכת פיצה. הוא היה מאוד אוהב את הפיצה שלי.
C'est
Il y avait deux chansons de Jodassin qu'il aimait beaucoup. Et jusqu'à maintenant, je n'arrive pas à les... לא יכולה לשמוע אותם, כי בא לי לבכות.
כל הזמן היה מטייל עם הגיטרה. ז'אן-ז'אק, הגיטרה, התיק החום מאור, והג'ינס מ... לא הג'ינס, לקורדרוי, קורדרוי, בייז' כזה, לא, בייז'. זה היה ז'אן-ז'אק.
את יודעת, אני לא הכרתי את ז'אן-ז'אק, אז קשה לי לדמיין שהיה שם...
ז'אן-ז'אק היה בן אדם, תקשיב טוב. אתה מזכיר לי אותו, הוא היה עם תכונות של הקשבה, עדין בטירוף.
נכון.
ורק לתת.
כן.
דודה שלי ודוד שלי בחיים לא התגברו על זה שהוא לא היה, שהוא לא... דודה שלי היא בן אדם שרק הולך ונושם. היא לא חיה.
כן, בשבילה זה היה משהו.
בשביל דודה?
כשהייתי הולכת לעשות קניות איתה, היא הייתה רואה מישהו עם טלטלים. היא הייתה הולכת ישר עליו. והייתי אומרת, אמא, זה לא ז'אן-ז'אק, זה מישהו אחר, הוא יחשוב שאת משוקעת. והיא הייתה אומרת, מנשקת אותו.
זה היו זמנים קשים מאוד.
זה היום הכי קשה שהיה בחיים.
אפשר לחשוב מה היה קורה אם הוא היה נשאר עוד איתנו.
שחשבתי על זה.
המשפחה הזאת הייתה אולי נראית אחרת לגמרי.
I know how the
Unmute. Okay. Let's see if there are more participants waiting to come in. No. Okay. Well, those were the first 10 minutes of the film. Of course, I invite everyone to see the whole film, but I can talk about that later. I'll give the stage to Alessandro to ask questions. And of course, Jonathan is here, and my father, Eyal Boers, who was the co-producer of the film. And they both speak Italian, so I'm very proud of that. So Alessandro, feel free to also ask them questions. Thank you, that's it.
Thank you, Eyal. I have questions for all of you. I start with the director, with Eyal, and I put in Italy and also in English. La prima domanda. Recentemente in Italia alcuni storici hanno coniato un motto, raccontiamo la storia, raccontiamola tutta. Possiamo dire che il tuo film, Eyal, Live or Die in Entebbe, risponde a questa logica aprendo appunto uno squarcio in quella che è una vicenda sconosciuta, quale quella appunto del 19enne Jean-Jacques Mimouni. Traduco in inglese. Recently in Italy, a very important period was coined by some historians. Let's tell the history, let's tell it all. Can we say that your documentary film, Live or Die in Entebbe, responds to this logic in opening the gates on the unknown history of Jean-Jacques Mimouni?
Okay. Well, every documentary, I'll speak slow, Alessandro, so I will give you time to translate, okay? But I'll say the first thing in one go. Every documentary presents itself as telling the whole story. Every documentary, by definition, likes to present itself as objective, as a reflection of the whole truth. You want to translate that first?
Ogni documentario si presenta come un tentativo appunto di raccontare una intera storia e come obiettivo appunto di riflesso quello di raccontare tutta la verità di una vicenda storica.
But in fact, no documentary can ever cover the whole truth, and no documentary is really objective. What was important for me was to show a part of the story that has not been told or has not been told enough, what I call the shadows behind the myth. And this is what documentary filmmakers try to do. They try to expose truths that have not been told. So not the whole truth, but other truths that have not been told. Please, Alessandro.
Ciò che era importante, molto importante per me, era andare comunque oltre l'oggettività e raccontare, andare a trovare anche le ombre dietro il mito, tra virgolette, della operazione della mitzvah Jonathan, e raccontando appunto una storia non raccontata finora, appunto come quella di Jean-Jacques Mimouni. Era questo soprattutto lo scopo appunto del lavoro di Eyal.
Sounds so much better in Sardinian Italian. Unbelievable. Sounds much better than me. By the way, is there a Sardinian dialect, may I ask? There is a Sardinian dialect?
Oh, there is a Sardinian language, not a dialect.
No, but when you speak Italian, do you have a dialect?
No, there is a Sardinian language. In Sardinia, we have many groups that fight also for independence from national Italy, and they insist that the Sardinian is a language, not a dialect.
I already got the warning that the session will end in 10 minutes, so again, we can reconnect. But maybe at this stage you want to also ask Jonathan a question and then return to me, so we don't lose him in any case. But it's up to you.
I have a question also for Jonathan, and that's very, very important to me to ask to Jonathan. Jonathan, what do you think when you first learned that Eyal Boers wanted to make a film opening a glance on the history of your uncle Jean-Jacques Mimouni? And how did your family welcome the idea of this project? And in Canada, where do you live? How is now the movie Live or Die in Entebbe of Eyal Boers?
Jonathan, you are muted right now. I'm asking you to unmute.
Yes.
Hi, Alessandro, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk. Well, actually, Eyal and I met many years before the movie was produced. We were friends. We met in university, and it happened that one day we were traveling to the Netherlands, working on another documentary, and I mentioned to Eyal that it was the anniversary of the death of my uncle, and Eyal said, "Oh, I didn't know you had an uncle that died. And he said, yeah, my uncle died in Entebbe. And he was like, oh, I'm very surprised because I didn't know that apart from Netanyahu, there was somebody else who died in Entebbe. And then I kind of realized that many people in Israel don't know that, or don't remember that other people died in Entebbe, apart from current Prime Minister Netanyahu's brother. So we digged a little bit inside, and when Eyal asked me, "But how did your uncle die?" and we said, we're really not sure. Eyal, being a movie maker and very curious by nature, thought, my God, this could be a great subject for a documentary movie. Now, of course, we made a lot of research. My family was kind of divided about the movie. Some people in my family was actually extremely happy that a movie is being made because they feel that for many years my uncle was kind of forgotten in terms of when there were celebration of anniversaries of Entebbe. Not many people in Israel like to talk about the victims. They focus on the achievement, which is kind of normal because it was a great military achievement, but they don't talk a lot about the victims. And for my family, especially for my grandfather, when I first approached him with the idea of having a movie, he was extremely happy, extremely honored that we decided to do a movie. But there were some other people in my family, because they still haven't, I think, healed properly from the loss of my uncle, that it was extremely hard for them to have to, many of them didn't want to participate in the movie. It was hard for them to hear, about the last days of Jean-Jacques or the last minutes of Jean-Jacques when he was alive. But after all, we did the movie, and it was, I think, it was a great experience for me as well. I've never known my uncle, so it was very nice to learn about him from people who known him in his last moments of his life.
Now in Italian, Jonathan, say something in Italian.
No, I
promise.
can't speak Italian.
Come on. But listen, there's 5 minutes till this meeting time, then we're going to reconnect. So
rimangono solo 5 minuti, traduco in italiano la risposta di Jonathan. Jonathan ed Eyal erano in contatto già da prima, si trovavano in viaggio in Olanda, dove stavano lavorando ad altri progetti filmografici documentari, e capitò che si trovavano in Olanda il 4 di luglio. E Jonathan disse a Eyal: oggi è un triste anniversario per la mia famiglia, è l'anniversario della morte di mio zio. Mio zio è morto durante l'operazione Entebbe. E Eyal rimase meravigliato. Anche Eyal non sapeva della storia di Jean-Jacques Mimouni, non sapeva non aveva molto sentito parlare a proposito appunto degli ostaggi morti durante il blitz israeliano. Eyal è un regista molto curioso per natura, molto attivo e pronto anche ad andare appunto a scoprire le storie più inedite, e quindi fu immediatamente colpito da questa vicenda. La famiglia di Jonathan era molto divisa. Molti membri della famiglia erano contenti perché finalmente si sarebbe aperta una luce sulla vicenda di Jean-Jacques Mimouni, secondo molti della famiglia di Jonathan dimenticato per molti anni, perché in Israele sull'operazione Entebbe si conosce tantissimo a proposito del fratello del premier Benjamin Netanyahu, Jonathan Netanyahu, che è morto appunto nel corso del blitz, e a cui tra l'altro è stata poi dedicata in seguito l'operazione, appunto rinominando la mitzvah Jonathan, ma non molti conoscevano la vicenda di Jean-Jacques Mimouni. La famiglia era divisa, però il film è, diciamo, uscito bene ed è stato molto, molto ben accettato. C'è molta appunto contentezza in tutto questo. Grazie Jonathan per la tua risposta. We have
3 minutes
only
for the remaining time. That's what it says here.
3 minutes, yes.
But it's okay. Then we reconnect if people want. So
we can reconnect, and I prepare for the next time when we reconnect. Any question for Mr. Eyal Boers? I want to know from you what impact of the crisis of the hostages in Entebbe had on everyday citizens in the world, and in particular in Israel at the time. If you can talk us about this, please, Mr. Boers. Ho chiesto al signor Boers quale impatto ha avuto la crisi degli ostaggi di Entebbe dopo il dirottamento, appunto la terribile selezione che c'è stata, perché lo voglio ancora ricordare, gli ostaggi sono stati suddivisi non tra israeliani e non israeliani, ma tra ebrei e non ebrei, né più né meno come avveniva nei campi di sterminio. E quindi quale impatto ha avuto appunto questa crisi nella vita quotidiana dei cittadini in Israele all'epoca? Rimangono solo 2 minuti. We have only 2 minutes.
okay, let my father start for 2 minutes, and then if it cuts, we reconnect. And you don't have to make me host again, I think.
Buonasera, sono molto lieto di partecipare a questo programma. È la mia prima visita in Sardegna. È molto bella. Ci sono alcune date nella nostra vita in cui ricordiamo esattamente il luogo, l'ora e le circostanze di un determinato evento. Il regista del film mancava 4 giorni al suo primo compleanno quando avvenne l'operazione di salvataggio a Entebbe nel 1976. Allo stesso modo in cui ricordo l'11/9 negli Stati Uniti, o il 22 novembre 1963, l'assassinio di John F. Kennedy, e ricordo il luogo, l'ora in cui ho sentito la notizia di questi eventi, quindi ricordo esattamente dove mi trovavo quando ho sentito notizia dell'operazione del salvataggio a Entebbe. Per più di 1 settimana eravamo stati raggruppati nella nostra televisione e radio. La tensione in tutto il mondo era esplosiva, poiché sapevamo che i terroristi palestinesi e tedeschi, che combinazione della storia mondiale, avrebbero ucciso tutti i 106 ostaggi in Uganda. Ero io.
Okay, Mr. Boers, you can André, puoi continuare. Ci stavi dicendo che ci sono delle date molto importanti nella storia del vostro popolo, ci hai nominato, e nella storia in generale ci hai nominato la data dell'assassinio di Kennedy, l'11 settembre, e ci stavi parlando di quando hai saputo appunto della crisi di Entebbe. Ti trovavi in Olanda e avevi un bambino di 1 anno che era il piccolo Eyal, il regista del film. Prego.
Esattamente, sì. Dunque ho detto che ero in un supermercato in una piccola città, Leiden, nei Paesi Bassi, con mia moglie e con Eyal, il mio figlio, che è la regista del film, che era in una carrozzina per bambini, come si dice, un pram, a little pram for babies.
Un passeggino.
E faceva la spesa nello stesso mercato, che ha sentito parlare in ebraico, ci ha avvicinato e ha detto: congratulazioni per la più straordinaria missione di salvataggio nella storia moderna. E 35 anni dopo, il bambino di 1 anno di quel tempo ha realizzato il documentario di cui discuteremo stasera.
I translate you.
If you prefer to translate, you translate.
Because I don't know if all they talk Italian, so I prefer also to translate in English. And there are some dates some very, very important dates in history that are very, very, very really important, like the 11th of September 2001, the attack against America in the Twin Towers, and not only in the Twin Towers. In 1963, the 22 June, if I don't wrong, the assassination of USA President John Fitzgerald Kennedy. And a very important date, the 4th July 1976, the date of Operation Entebbe. Mr. Boers, André, was in a little market in Leiden, Holland, with his wife and a little baby of 1 year old. That is the director of Life or Die in Entebbe, Mr. Eyal Boers. And they learn talking in Hebrew in this little market in Holland, compliments that is the most important safe operation in the history. And
rescue
operation in the history. And it was the Entebbe operation. And 35 years after, this little baby that it was in a little passeggino, we call him in Italian, in Italian, he made a very important film that discusses this night, Life or Die in Entebbe. Thank you, Mr. Boers. Another question.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay.
We are. There is a person that joined us. He joined us. Dr. Professor Vincenzo Pinto is the director and founder of Free Ebrei Channel Television. Do il benvenuto, ci ha appena raggiunto, al professor Vincenzo Pinto, direttore e fondatore di Free Ebrei Channel, che ci ha appena raggiunto. Grazie Vincenzo per la tua presenza. Another question for you, Eyal. Un'altra domanda per te, Eyal. I put them in English and after I translate in Italian. Your film is a documentary that commemorates and honors the heroes who freed the hostages of Air France 139, held in hostage by terrorists and by the dictator Idi Amin Dada only as Jews, but also a documentary showing how the Mitzvah Yonatan was for families like the Mimouni family a great tragedy also. And how complicated was it for you to reconstruction of all of this, and how was welcomed in Eretz Israel, your film? Il tuo documentario, lo traduco in italiano, commemora e ricorda non solo l'eroismo di Entebbe e appunto il salvataggio di centinaia di ostaggi tenuti nell'aeroporto di Entebbe in Uganda dai terroristi palestinesi e tedeschi e dal dittatore Idi Amin Dada solamente in quanto ebrei, ma anche come questo evento è stato per alcune famiglie ebree, come la famiglia Mimouni, una grande tragedia. Quanto è stato complesso ricostruire tutto ciò e come è stato accolto in Israele il tuo film? Please, Eyal.
Well, this is exactly what I found interesting to explore in the film. The irony, the paradox between the myth and reality. And this is something I've been dealing with even before Entebbe. The film I made before Entebbe, this is how me and Alessandro know each other, was a film about Anne Frank in the Netherlands. And there I also tried to research the gap, the difference between the myth around Anne Frank and the real story of Anne Frank. The same thing with Entebbe. There is a very big myth, a very true myth around Entebbe, but I wanted to try to expose some truth or some shadows behind the myth. And it's very, very important for me to say that you asked me how it was received in Israel. In Israel, there was a tiny bit of fear that this will slaughter the holy cow. This is, you have to understand that Entebbe all these years has been in Israel the one thing that you you cannot ruin, you cannot touch, and I didn't want to ruin. But one of the articles in Globe's newspaper was, please don't slaughter this cow. Leave us with this story. You know, people have exposed the truth behind every war and operation in Israel's history. But this has remained somehow pure. And I believe, and this is very important, that when you expose the truths behind a myth, when you show the shadows behind a myth, you only strengthen the myth. It only makes the myth more believable, more human, more real. I think if I thought when I was 18 that this was the greatest story ever told, after researching it and making this film, I think it's even greater than I thought it was. So it was accepted in Israel with some, you know, with some suspicion perhaps. Why do this? Why go that direction? But in the end, I think it only strengthened the story. That's in a nutshell.
Traduco in italiano, grazie Eyal. È proprio questo il punto interessante di tutta questa produzione, l'ironia e paradosso tra mito e realtà, l'andare oltre quello che è il mito, oltre quello che è la metastoria e vedere in faccia la maggiore realtà e esporre la realtà totale dietro il mito, oltre il mito, in realtà non indemolisce quel mito, anzi rafforza, rende ancora più forte quell'evento importante di salvataggio che è stato la mitzvah Yonatan e lo rende ancora più reale, perché è umano appunto il fatto che ci siano state anche delle ombre, non solo tutto un fiorire, diciamo, continuo. E in Israele alcuni erano preoccupati che la vacca sacra, tra virgolette, della mitzvah Yonatan potesse venire intaccata. In realtà così non è stato, no? Così non è stato. Andare oltre il mito, vedere anche le ombre, rafforza quel mito. E tutto ciò è stato appunto rafforzato dal film. E non è l'unico caso, non è l'unico caso. Eyal ci ha appena ricordato che nel 2008 ha realizzato in Olanda un film documentario sulla Shoah molto bello, che vi invito a scoprire se ne avrete occasione, Classmates of Anne Frank, this documentary movie. Eyal ha intervistato coloro che erano stati i compagni di classe di Anne Frank nel liceo ebraico di Amsterdam nel 41-42, prima appunto della storia che tutti conoscono, quella del diario, quella del retrocasa, quella dell'Anna Frank nascosta. Ecco, andare oltre appunto rafforza il mito, di certo non lo indebolisce. Any precisation? I put them in English and after in Italian. I think that you have made something like some historians like Georges Benzouzan, the great historian of the Holocaust and the anti-Semitism, made in his universities about the importance to make more history and slow memory, because only the memory is metahistoric, and much history, much documents about the reality is better. I think that you made almost like something. Penso che tu abbia fatto qualcosa anche di quello che insegna lo storico Georges Benzouzan, un luminare della storia dell'antisemitismo che invita a guardare più la storia, appunto più i fatti, più anche le ombre dietro i fatti e meno, diciamo, la memoria fine a se stessa. Eyal.
I don't understand exactly what the question was, but since you allowed yourself also to welcome another speaker here, it's important for me to let the people here know that we have here Avner Avraham with us. I hope he hears what I'm saying right now. Avner, can you hear me? Avner?
He's mute. I put in...
He's mute. Of course he's mute. He cannot hear me right now. Okay, I'll present him later because he can also add. Can you please repeat the question as a question, because I didn't understand
It's
what the
not,
question
it's not a question, it was an observation. The historian Georges Benzouzane, a great historian of the history of anti-Semitism, invite us in his universities to make more history and minus memory, because only the memory, only the myth is not good. The study of the history and also the shadows behind every event is important. I think is more like the message of Benzouzane also, your film. Is really historic because it shows less known history, watching the documents and watching also the shadows under the myth and the strength of this myth. So it was an observation by me.
Thank you. I would say to that, and then Avner, can you hear me now? Because I was trying to present.
Yes, sorry, I'm with you. Okay, yes.
So 1 second. I just want to answer Alessandro's question, and then I want to present you. Alessandro, a very important book has been written about Operation Entebbe in the last few years. It's called Operation Thunderbolt by a British historian called Saul David. And he came to Israel and he interviewed me about the film, and he devoted a chapter in his book about the film. And he defined it as an important film that adds, as you said, another truth to the story. And that, I think, is the mission of many documentaries. As opposed to a fiction film, documentaries are supposed to have this unwritten contract with the viewer that they're supposed to teach the viewer something and not only give him an emotional experience. And so documentaries, and I hope mine as well, doesn't only add a truth to the story, but provide some information to the viewer. And if we're talking about information, I want to present Avner Avraham, who is with us here. I want to tell you that he is a former Mossad agent. We can actually say that. We are allowed to say that here. And he is a renowned expert on Mossad operations. And I remind you also that the Mossad was very, very active during Operation Entebbe, which is also a part that I try to expose a bit more than the films did before me. And especially Avner publicized the inside story of the 1960 capture of Adolf Eichmann, and works on an exhibition which deals with that, and also an exhibition on Operation Entebbe. So I think Avner can also add some very important information if you would like to ask him a question, or if Avner, if you want to say a few words before we continue.
Yes, thank you, Eyal, and good evening, everybody. 10 years ago, I made the first exhibit in the Mossad headquarters about the capture of Adolf Eichmann, and it became a big success, and they asked me to build a museum. So the second exhibit was about Operation Entebbe, or Operation Jonathan. Now, I started to collect objects, and I want to show you one of the objects from the exhibit. I'm going to wear it. This is original Tembel hat. It's a typical Israeli hat that the IDF made 200 of them, and they gave it to all the soldiers so they can recognize each other, because some of the commando soldiers came with the Ugandan army uniforms. So they came with this, and some of the hostages told me that they saw angels. So that's the reason that they saw angels when the commando rescue team entered to the terminal. And now, when I started to work on the Entebbe, I thought that Yonatan Netanyahu was the commander of the operation. And it's a very common mistake in Israel. And the truth is that Dan Shomron, that after years became the chief of staff, he was the commander. Now, and of course, as you told at the very beginning, that we all know Jonathan Netanyahu and Dora Bloch. I think Jonathan Khayat at the beginning of Eyal's documentary, he said that we don't know the other names like Eyal Boers, Jean-Jacques Mimouni, and Pasco Cohen. So I met the Pasco Cohen family. I met his widow and the kids. I know that Eyal Boers, that the family is not in Israel. And about Jean-Jacques, it's a great honor for me to meet here, and I hope to meet in person the family of Jean-Jacques. I can tell you that I met hundreds of people, from the hostages, from the soldiers, from the government, and one of the hostages, his name is Ezra. I don't know if Eyal met him, but he told me that in the Sayeret Matkal, when they came by midnight, most of them were sleeping, and he slept between Pasco Cohen and Jean-Jacques Mimouni. He was in the middle. And so he told me about Jean-Jacques that at the beginning he was like everybody lying down, and suddenly he jumped. He was very maybe happy, or he realized that the IDF is there. And then he got, probably he got shot from the crossfire, friendly fire, I don't know exactly. And then I found out that the family didn't get the real information what happened there. I mean, all the people in Israel dancing in the street, a huge success, and a few families coming to the airport and got a very bad news. So anyway, I met the exhibit in Rabin Center, and Shimon Peres came, and Prime Minister Netanyahu, and it was the first time that Netanyahu came to Rabin Center, by the way. And one of the reasons was that he gave me Jonathan Netanyahu battle vest, and I showed the battle vest there. So anyway, today I posted the picture of the coins that I'm producing coins for spy operations and Mossad operations, and
he shared it on your post, Alessandro. He shared the picture of the medal on your post.
Yes.
And I decided to ask the designer to add the first letter of each one of them, including Jean-Jacques. And there's also a brochure that described the name, the whole names. And I'm going to, by the way, to make a Zoom with the ambassador, the Israeli ambassador in Rome next week. So if you want to join this meeting, I already made one Zoom meeting for 1,500 people in Italy, together with the ambassador. It was about the capture of Eichmann, and next week I'm going to do it about Operation Entebbe. And usually I talk about the Mossad in the operation because most of the people don't know what the Mossad made. I can tell you another thing, that Jean-Jacques was very kind with the kids, and he helped the kids all the time in Entebbe, and he served tea for everybody, and he took care of everybody. But as far as I know, he didn't have an Israeli passport. Is it true?
All these things are discussed in the movie, Avner. Also, the Pasco Cohen family is interviewed in the film, and Jonathan can also add to this the whole passport issue. And of course, all the hostages in the film describe how friendly he was. So yeah, those things come up. Jonathan Khayat, did he have an Israeli passport or not? Remind me. I don't know if Jonathan is hearing me.
He's in mute, but as far as I know, I didn't have, but I think that the fact that they asked Jean-Jacques to move to the Israeli room was the fact that he was very close and friendly with all the Israeli group. And that what I know that the German woman asked him to go to the other room because he was part of the Israeli group.
Mm-hmm. Alessandro, sorry to take your question, so please continue. It was important for me to let you know that we have a distinguished guest with us.
No, but in proposal about the question of Israeli passport or not Israeli passport, I read it and studied also that the terrorists make a selection between Jews and non-Jews. Not about the presence in the documents of an Israeli passport over there. It was between Jews and non-Jews, and they liberated the non-Jews, and the commandant of Air France 139, Michel Bacot, decided to rest with the hostages in Entebbe. And I want to remind anything that is not so good to remember. At his return in France, Michel Bacot was severely punished from Air France company for his decision to stay with the hostages in the Entebbe airport and not to return with the non-Jews hostage in Europe. And it is a particularity that is no often say that Michel Bacot and his crew was very punished by the Air France company for his decision to stay with the Jews hostages. I think it's very important to remember this.
Jonathan, can you hear us? Jonathan Khayat.
Yes, I can hear you.
Remind us, I hope you also heard Avner, but I can connect the two of you later, no problem. But did your uncle have an Israeli passport? For sure he had a French one. He
didn't have an Israeli passport, but he had a permanent residency card. I mean, they've been living in Israel at the time for close to 5 years, 4 to 5 years. So he didn't have a passport. But, you know, I mean, he spoke Hebrew fluently. He went to, he was living in Israel for so many years. He looked very Israeli. I think that there is a misconception, and we've spoken to some of the hostages about that. It was mainly a differentiation between Israelis and non-Israelis. I know that a lot of people have spoken about a selection of Jews, but there were many Jews who were liberated on the Wednesday. And actually, that was one of the biggest mistakes made by the terrorists, is that when those Jews were liberated and arrived in Paris, one of the first people to wait for them were Mossad agents, of course, asking them questions about the number of terrorists, where they were held, etc. So it wasn't just a separation between Jews and non-Jews. It was really a separation between Israelis and non-Israelis. But that being said, I think that my uncle, I mean, even if he didn't have an Israeli passport, saw himself as Israeli. So for him, it didn't make a difference. And when he heard that the Israelis are staying, having this piece of paper or not, for him really didn't make a difference. He felt himself as part of the group and wanted to stay with the Israeli. But officially no, he didn't have an Israeli passport.
Alejandro,
yes.
May I add something? The separation, I can tell you for sure, was between Israelis and, first of all, between Israelis and non-Israelis, because they collected all the passports, number one. Number two, they didn't know, they couldn't recognize the Jews, but if they saw Orthodox Jew with a kippah, okay?
Yes.
They told him, you have to go to the other room. And it happened with a couple from Brussels, and I spoke with them, by the way, and also American couple. Okay. And of course, Yes, please.
Yes, sorry,
we have only 10 minutes, and we have only 10 minutes, and I make a speed traduction in Italian. Avner Abraham, former agent del Mossad, ha curato alcune esposizioni, due esposizioni storiche molto particolari, una sulla cattura del processo ad Adolf Eichmann in Israele nel 1961 e la seconda appunto sulla crisi di Entebbe. È entrato, diciamo, tra virgolette, anche nella realizzazione di una medaglia commemorativa. Can you put, please, Avner, the medallion that you shown us before the starting of the conference? Can you show us this object, please? Un medaglione commemorativo della Operazione Entebbe, all'interno del quale sono stati, per sua richiesta, aggiunti anche i primi nomi, le prime lettere dei nomi degli ostaggi, dei 4 ostaggi che non sono tornati a casa e che sono morti. 3 ostaggi appunto sono morti nel blitz: Pasco Cohen, Ida Borovic e Jean-Jacques Mimouni. Il 4º ostaggio, lo voglio ricordare, era la signora Dora Bloch. La signora Dora Bloch si era sentita male in aeroporto nelle giornate di reclusione, appunto di mantenimento in reclusione all'interno dell'aeroporto da parte dei terroristi, ed era stata ricoverata in un ospedale locale ugandese. A seguito del blitz israeliano non si è più saputo nulla di lei, si sono perse le tracce. Non si seppe più nulla di lei fino al 1979, quando, caduto il regime di Idi Amin, in seguito alla guerra contro la Tanzania, furono ritrovati i suoi resti, e un testimone ammise poi che era stata assassinata, prelevata da alcuni soldati e assassinata barbaramente, quasi come una sorta di vendetta nei confronti appunto del blitz israeliano. Quindi questi ci sono 4, appunto è stato inserito anche la prima lettera del nome di Dora Bloch, appunto, che è stata prelevata da un ospedale ugandese ed è stata assassinata. Avner ha avuto modo anche di studiare e di analizzare il ruolo importante che ha avuto il Mossad all'interno dell'operazione Entebbe. È entrato anche in contatto con alcuni degli ostaggi liberati, in particolare con una ragazza di nome Esra, che si trovava al momento del blitz, era addormentata tra il signor Pasco Cohen e Jean-Jacques Mimouni, proprio era accanto a lui, e ha portato molte testimonianze riguardo a Jean-Jacques Mimouni, al suo comportamento nei giorni appunto del sequestro, del dirottamento da parte dei terroristi. Una persona molto molto vicina soprattutto ai bambini che si trovavano tra gli ostaggi, offriva loro del tè, cercava insomma di rincuorarli e così via. Quindi ci tenevo appunto a tradurre quanto detto da Avner. Poi una nota riguardo praticamente alla separazione appunto avvenuta da parte dei terroristi. Effettivamente la separazione era stata inizialmente tra israeliani e non israeliani, stava notando Avner, stava facendo notare Avner, perché erano stati guardati i passaporti, chi aveva il passaporto israeliano o meno, ma Jean-Jacques Mimouni non era in possesso di passaporto israeliano, aveva solamente una sorta di permanent resident card. Tra l'altro voglio ricordare che Jean-Jacques Mimouni era di origini tunisine, if I don't make a mistake, it was Tunisian origin, Jean-Jacques Mimouni. I don't make a mistake.
The parents were Tunisian, but he was from Paris. By the way, I see that Avner in the chat shared the medal of Entebbe, which you can have a look at. Here
Avner stava facendo notare che a seguito della separazione tra israeliani e non israeliani, alcuni ebrei, soprattutto ortodossi, che portavano il kippah, per esempio, erano stati appunto anche loro, gli era stato imposto di andare, pur non avendo un passaporto israeliano, tra gli altri ostaggi appunto trattenuti in aeroporto. E qui si vede tutto comunque l'antisemitismo. We can see in this all the antisemitism of these terrorists that put only because kippah in the head hostages in the Israelian group. e così anche Jean-Jacques Mimouni è finito in quel gruppo perché stava molto insieme a questi. Questa appunto è la verità. Poi Avner ci ha mostrato anche un piccolo cappello bianco, e anche questo è un documento, non è soltanto un oggetto, it's not only an object but also an historical document that you show us. Per questo perché? Perché gli ostaggi raccontano che vedevano i soldati di Israele come degli angeli. Effettivamente questi piccoli capelli bianchi sono stati forniti ai soldati che hanno partecipato al blitz perché praticamente erano tutti vestiti con la divisa dei soldati ugandesi dall'aeroporto. E quindi per creare una sorta di riconoscimento immediato tra chi faceva parte appunto dei soldati israeliani impegnati del blitz e chi no, era stata pensata appunto questa cosa appunto dei piccoli capelli bianchi. Da qui appunto l'idea dei soldati di Israele visti come angeli, tra virgolette come angeli bianchi durante il blitz. È un documento, it's an important particularly.
Alessandro, sorry to, yeah. Thank you. It's about 3 minutes left, and
it's
I also
about
have
3
to finish.
minutes.
So I want you to conclude, perhaps. So I will say maybe one more word, and we conclude because I don't want to keep. I know some people already left. So just before you conclude, I just want to say thank you again for this initiative, and it's amazing to know that there is someone in Sardinia, Avner, that is documenting the Holocaust and documenting Jewish history. It's just unbelievable. And thank you for this opportunity. There's so much more to say. I will finish also by saying that remember that the same humans that were able to initiate an amazing operation like Entebbe will be also the humans that can end the corona crisis in the end. Humans are able to do amazing things, so don't lose hope. And it's good to talk about this operation during the corona crisis to remember what humans are able to achieve. We will overcome this crisis too. So thank you, Alessandro, and now please you say a few concluding words.
Eyal ci ringrazia tutti, in particolare me, per questa iniziativa. Dice che è straordinario che in Sardegna ci sia qualcuno che documenta così tanto la storia della Shoah, la storia dell'antisemitismo, eccetera, e vuole concludere ricordandoci che persone normali possono fare cose straordinarie, come quello che è successo ad Entebbe, ma anche adesso, in questa grande crisi pandemica che il mondo sta vivendo con il coronavirus, veramente delle persone normali possono fare cose straordinarie e uscire da momenti di crisi, e supereremo sicuramente anche questa. Thank you Eyal for all, thank you at all, grazie a voi tutti per aver partecipato.